And then Kazi Nyanaya, who was suspended for the last outing, is back into the lineup. And Musa Lebusa, who was injured for the cup game over the weekend, also returns to the fold. So I'll get the thoughts of William Shongwe, who's alongside me in just a moment, on how the teams line up formation-wise, as our match referee out of Port Shepstone, that's Skumbuzo Gasa, 35-year-old, consults with the two captains, who both happen to be their goalkeepers. Khara Mokoena and Smukeli Jali will assist Mr. Gasa down the flanks. In the foreground, Khalil Ben Yusuf, alongside him Cedric Kazi. Big opportunity for them this evening as they ring the changes. So William, let's defer to your knowledge and intellect. What did you pick up with regards to the two lineups and indeed the formations tonight?
Obviously, I think what will captivate the viewers out there is the introduction of a long-awaited entry of Chislet and playing in that number 10 position. A position previously featured, or should I say, occupied by Shabalala or Serino. And but for me, I would like to see his tactical adaptation into the pockets of spaces. That is where he will be operating. But with the movement of Liloto and Dupria on both sides, there should be enough arriving into the center to feed him with the opportunity. But even bigger for Chiefs is Flavio, who's always in the box, who's always looking for pieces, you know, falling on either side to be able to finish. Very exciting, number 9.
Flavio Silva, the top goal scorer in the league so far this season, Kaizer Chiefs. Although with that said, only 4 goals that he's contributed, so they haven't really had a player who's been hitting the back of the net with regularity in the Betway Premiership. And that's also reflected in their total goal tally over the course of this campaign so far. They have been excellent at the back. The votes of that. Whilst Stellenbosch, they're only 2 points clear of the relegation zone, but a win would propel them up the table, and a couple of good results will put them back in the mix for a top 8 spot.
When you're talking about top, it's the fact that they've defended so beautifully. I think that's where the key of this team comes from.
There's a lovely pass from McCarthy to find Ngobo and Lepo, who will never hesitate to pull the trigger from range. There's not a single player in the division shots on. He's been in fairly good goal scoring form in 2026. Lilepo, he scored a fairly late goal against Zamalek in a losing cause away from home 10 days ago. Out in Egypt, also netted against Zesco, and then in the Betway Premiership, through Tiani, clearance by Kunika.
One of the things that have been working with in training is Kaizer Chiefs is, if you look at just about every department in the field of play, it looks like quality. They're defending well. They're making the entries, but somehow in front of goal they've disappointed themselves. So just talking to some of the people closest to what the team does in training is coaches are focusing on the clinicalness when the ball arrives in the center. Could have decided he's going to hang that ball high. Because there's quite a number of goal shots in that box, but he opted to hit it low, and with the wet conditions, with the rain just coming down a few minutes before the game started, so that basically speaks volume of his ability to think, let me just attempt a ground shot, see what happens with the goalkeeper.
The danger man for Stanley this season, drives it towards the byline instead of cutting inside. What a goal. Langelihle Pili scored in their last Betway Premiership outing, the 1-0 draw with Magesi. Cavanagh barks out those instructions. Since departing Kaizer Chiefs, he is coming up against them in the Betway Premiership for an 8th time in total. Lost 4 matches.
Kazi, sorry, yes, he's gone over it. That's in the past, but like you said, there's still should be a test to it in the way that he couldn't at least even be given the chance to play in the semi-final and final of the Champions League, because that's where he left him. So that for him, I think, was the biggest regret, not being able to get that opportunity.
Sort of referred to a moment a couple of seconds back where Skubuza Gasa was urging Sage Stevens to play the ball a little quicker.
Be given the chance to play that opportunity.
Sort of referred to a moment, there's a lot of emphasis. A couple of seconds back where placed on that now, was urging Sage Stevens to play the ball a little quicker. And Wonderboy Makubu
To play
was serving the sort of referred to. There's a lot of emphasis. A couple of seconds back where placed on that of a 2-game urging suspension. Play the ball a little quicker. Or a red card
to play.
he received against Magesi for a very high boot on Mahocha. He has a man who's just come back from suspension, the Nigerian. Suspension. Quite effective from long throws last season. Stellenbosch hasn't really been the same situation this time around. Although Sane tossed in a few, I think they scored 3 or 4 from long throws across all competitions. But this has been an entirely different campaign in almost every conceivable regard. Quite effective from long throws last season. Not Stellenbosch really near the top of the table this time around. The league not progressing. The Confederation Cup. This has been an entirely different campaign in almost every conceivable regard. Near the top of the table. No pressure on Stevens as he measures this ball forward. McCarthy's header not the most convincing, and look at this! Well, the upright has been struck, wouldn't have counted in any case. The flag raised against Cupido, who's been fairly shy in front of goals this season. effect, he's still waiting for his first in the ball forwards. McCarthy's header not the most convincing, and look at this. Betway Premiership in this. Raboy does really well. He picked it up from Northern. He's carried the ball some distance here, slid it through brilliantly for Silva. Ingolstadt! Oh, the flag up once again. What a return that would have been for Ashley de Preer, who is the only player to have scored for both Chiefs and Stellenbosch in this particular tie. Let's take a closer look. That's clearly onside, William. Is he behind the ball?
The thing is,
we need to pause that.
He was hanging offside earlier, but that doesn't mean you are offside just merely by being there. It is the recovery, the crossing that finds him ahead of everybody, which could have been perceived as an unfair advantage. Oh, my boy!
Wow!
What a run!
What a run!
Weaving his way beautifully to be able to be composed, to see Da Silva is in a better position to whip it in, and which he did. How unfortunate for du Preer.
Of course, the move developed so quickly in real time. Even with the replay, we're struggling to determine whether or not, as the ball left the foot of Silva, was du Preer behind the ball.
Which he did. How unfortunate for du Preer. We will, of course, get the opportunity to see if we can freeze it at some stage, depending on how much time are we afforded by some of the breaks in between this action.
A couple of big moments already in this time. We're about to hit the 10-minute mark here. Dylan Solomons is on the move. He's evaded the challenge of Megandaka, but just touched the ball a little too far.
Team avoiding the tackle is what slows them down, that he can't recover to pick it up eventually. And that took away his momentum by the time he landed. Now, let's look at this one.
So onside, Dylan Solomons is on
yes.
the move. He's evaded the challenge of Megandaka, but just touched the ball a little too far. Man, that is tight. So, I'll let you make yours.